Welcome to Lovefly podcast. It's Paul Tizzard, fear of flying coach for the last 25 years. And today we have a special guest on called Becky, who's going to be telling us all about her fear of flying journey. So welcome, Becky. You contacted a little while ago and I asked you to come on to the podcast because you are, I would say, probably at the earlier stages of beating your fear. So perhaps you could tell people a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I currently work as a practice manager of some dental practices, and I know a lot of people are scared of the dentist. So I obviously see people with fear all the time and can relate to that's my fear is flying. When I was younger, I flew quite a lot. I've never had a bad flight. I've never experienced anything bad happen in a plane, but from the age of maybe about 16, 17, I've been terrified. I have done the EasyJet fear of flying course. I did that in 2020 because I got engaged, and as a wedding present my dad bought us a honeymoon, which is lovely. But for someone that's terrified of flying, the thought of spending 10 hours in a plane is my worst nightmare. So over the years I've done hypnotherapy. I've seen quite a few different people. I've spent probably thousands trying to get over my fear. And then in 2020, when we found out my dad booked the honeymoon, I thought I've got to do something now. Like it's getting too much. So I booked the EasyJet fear of flying course. I actually posted on a Facebook group and I said, is anyone scared of flying? What can I do? And a few people commented and recommended the fear of flying course. And two other women who I didn't know, they wrote on there saying if I book it, they will come with me because they're also scared. So 3 of us strangers got together, booked the course, went on the course, and I did find it was really good. The first day was theory, and then the second day was the flight. Out of 3 of us, one of the girls got on the plane but had to get off the plane. One of the girls is completely cured. She's flown everywhere.
Yes.
And then there's me. And because I feel like I'm in the middle now. I can look at planes now, whereas before I couldn't even look at planes in the sky. It got that bad.
Yeah.
I would freak out if we were driving down the motorway and there was a plane flying over. I just couldn't look at it. So I can now look at planes. And now from listening to your podcasts, actually, I found there was one where you were talking to a captain, and I found it really useful about the noise, how they have to not turn off the engine, but like reduce it. So noise or something. I remember that, and I remember thinking that's that feeling where you feel like the engine has just all of a sudden stopped and you're going to plummet.
Yeah.
Because that's what I fear. So then obviously 2020 COVID, so we didn't fly anywhere. So I actually haven't flown since I did the fear of flying course.
Yeah. To me, it sounds like you've done a lot of work, which is amazing, so you're well on the way to getting rid of the fear by the sound of it, because you're not where you were. I remember you said that you couldn't look at aircraft for a while, and then all of a sudden, you do the course with the EasyJet one, and you're able to sort of, then you can go on the motorway and not be fearful looking up at them. So something's obviously shifting.
Yeah, definitely. I can't even say what it is about. I think more so it's the claustrophobic being stuck, because I'm okay with landing almost, it's almost like for every second we get closer to the ground, my fear starts to lift.
Yes.
It's definitely not being able to just get off or escape. It's being stuck in the plane that I think is my biggest fear.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people will relate to that, actually, because it for many of us, it takes us back to that sort of idea of the fight or flight thing, doesn't it? You know, we want, when something fearful is there, we want to get away from it, and on an aircraft you can't. You have to sit and be content with it, don't you?
Yeah. And obviously it's all the fears that a person could have, they just get heightened again from listening to your podcasts as well. It's the I listened to one where it said, because your eyes aren't looking directly out the window or where you're going, your senses and like the little hairs in your ears like tell you that the plane is tipping really far over, when in actual fact it's only like 10 degrees or something like that.
Yes.
But your mind makes it so much worse, and I'm guilty of having a very overactive imagination, and I just make it so much worse for myself.
Yeah, I think you'll be amongst good company with that one. We all do that. I've said that for years, is that when we don't really know what's going on, we feel uncertain, then we'll try and make sense of it, and we'll imagine, our imaginations will run riot. So the honeymoon is the big motivator.
Yeah, that's because it's booked. Obviously it was booked in 2020, then COVID happened, then the wedding was moved to May 2021, but that also got cancelled. So now we're May 2022, no matter what happens, which means the honeymoon is June 2022, and we're going to Antigua.
Nice.
So that is an 8-hour flight.
So that's a lot to think about, isn't it? But you know, we've got, what are you in now? We're in February, so you've got 4 months.
Yeah.
And you are doing stuff. You're listening to the podcast. You've been on a course. Do you think another course would help, or what's your plan over the next few months?
I was thinking to do another course, but then like my fiance reminded me that I've spent over £1,000 on these courses and I'm still terrified.
Yes.
So do I keep throwing money at something when actually it's my own head? It's myself. I know flying is one of the safest forms of transport. I know that it's more highly regulated than any other industry. I know planes don't just fall out the sky every day, but for some reason, my head won't let me believe it. So I'm a bit at a crossroads, really. I am listening to all the podcasts. I have also read the Alan. A few people recommended the Alan Carr.
Yes, that's good.
Fear of Flying book.
Yeah.
That was, I found that good as well. And I'm just kind of trying to do loads of self-help stuff now, rather than throw money at courses.
Yes.
When mentally I can't let go of this fear. I mean, I'm listening to that hypnotherapy stuff and like breathing and trying to stay in control of myself, because when you're in the plane, it all goes out the window.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you are updating yourself every day. You do something different. So this fear, the way, I look at it is that it's a pattern. If you look at it as a pattern of behavior, that it's a habit you've got into. You could describe it. It's not the best way, but you could talk about, you could describe it a bit like not going to the gym at all, not exercising at all, and then starting to go to the gym and exercise, and that change from one way of operating to another is a shift, behavior shift, and it takes continued effort. And you're doing loads. I mean, honestly, it's very encouraging to hear how much you're doing. And I think you're right. You don't spend any more money on it, because at this stage now, you're just reinforcing all the good work that you're doing, and every single day that you do something, it is chipping away at the fear. And that's what you don't think you need to go on any other courses. I was just curious, because sometimes people do that, but it sounds like you've spent enough money there. Good.
Yeah, I think I'll wait till April, May time, and I think if I'm still feeling the way I do, I will go on a course, I think. But I really want to try and do all I can now, because financially it's really sensible. But I also can't bear the thought of spending 8 hours in sheer fear the whole time. I won't relax. There's no part of the journey that I relax. The only time I'm relaxed is the second we've landed.
Yeah, at the moment.
But then I spend the 2 or 3 days towards my end of the holiday fearing the journey home.
Yes.
So it's hard, because it's one of them things that you don't, with a fear, you can, the more you're open to it, and a lot of people say, like, if you face your fear, it gets better. But flying is not for me anyway, it's not an everyday occurrence. It's maybe once a year. So you can almost put it off and like put it to the back of the mind. It's not something that I'm having to do every other week.
Yes.
But that's probably why it builds up so much in my head, because I haven't flown since, well, the Fear of Flying course in 2020, which was 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's understandable. A lot of people will say that if they were able to fly every day, that they would then start to see it as the non-event that it is, and that's not true. It's not. It's not a non-event. It's a special event, because the thing about flying is it's not an everyday thing in any way sense of the phrase, unless you are cabin crew or something. Then that's the only people that are flying literally all the time.
Yeah.
For most of us, it is much more of a special thing. We need to prepare ourselves, but that doesn't mean that you can't do something about this. And I think the fact that you're doing so much already is phenomenal. You know, that is really, it's helpful. You're building some really good foundations, you know.
Yeah, thank you. I read something that was like, I can't remember the exact words, but it was like, if I don't change my mindset, if I don't change something, the end goal is always going to be the same. Like, I'm always going to be scared if I don't start doing something about it. But it's funny you say that cabin crew aren't scared of flying, because they do it all the time. The reason I got into dentistry was because I had a really bad experience at the dentist, and the nurse was really sympathetic to me, and I always said, when I grow up I want to be like her. She helped me, so I became a dental nurse and then practice manager. But when I first started, I was terrified of the dentist, and that's why I got into dentistry, was to cure my fear, almost to help my fear. Was then, and now I'm in the dentist all day every day. I don't fear it now. And I listened to one of your podcasts about the nervous flyer who learned how to fly, and I feel like that might be me. I feel like I might need to learn how to fly a plane.
Well, I mean, you've got a good smile. I mean, that's clearly going to help you if you want to. You know, you're serving customers all the time, and you're used to helping people
Yeah.
in customer service. So your background is perfect, if that's what you're looking to do. There have been people that have gone on to do that, wanted to become cabin crew or gone on to become pilots. There was one woman that came on one of my the last business thing I was doing with Virgin when I was running the courses there, and she came back as a team leader, and then she's now trained as a pilot. So it's anything's possible. Anything's
That's
possible.
amazing. Yeah.
I think there's lots of work that you're
Thank
doing,
you.
and I would only encourage it,
Yeah.
because I think at this stage that you're at right now, it's easy to see what you can't do rather than what you've achieved. And if you think back where you
Yeah.
were 2 years ago, and you think back before that, if you think back 5 years ago, and you put yourself there looking to where
Yeah.
you are now, you've shifted a lot. But it's really hard to see 2 years from here. But you've made significant progress, more than you probably realize, because once we lose an element of the fear, we don't notice it anymore. So we just kind of take it for granted.
No.
But you've made massive progress, and you are continuing to, so I can only encourage it to keep doing what you're doing, because it is, with any fear, it's a case of just keep doing something little every day. I think it's really interesting. There's two things about your story which I find fascinating. So one is the way that you dealt with your dental fear, and that you've gone towards it and you've fought through it. So you've obviously got massive resources in you. And secondly, is I'm curious what you do to help reassure people who are scared of dentists now.
So it depends from where how bad their fear is. If they call up to book the appointment, I'll already say to them, well, you've done the first step, you've called us, and that's such a huge thing to do, knowing that you're scared of the dentist, but you're still calling to make an appointment. So I'll always be like encouraging over the phone. And then I'll invite them to come to the practice for a day that's not their appointment. So they know they're not actually having the appointment, but they're just coming for the day. So they know nothing's going to happen. A bit like maybe if I went to the airport for the day, but I knew I wasn't flying, maybe I might try that.
Maybe. Might.
And then I'll just, and then I just ask them what their fears are. If they know, like some people are scared of needles, or they don't like the smell of the dentist, or like there's something, or they've had a bad experience, and then I'll try and talk to them about that particular thing that they're scared of, and just reassure them, really. I mean, it's a much more common thing, I think, to be scared of the dentist than it is to be scared of flying.
Well,
but it's still a fear.
It's up there. It's, they're all in the kind of like fear of public speaking, fear of flying, fear of dying, fear of dentists. They're all up in the top, depending on where you look. But yes, it's pretty significant fear. I thought it was quite interesting there that you were talking about with the helping people, being very encouraging. You've become a fear expert.
Yeah, maybe.
And I wonder if perhaps you could, without I hope it doesn't sound patronizing, but maybe you could be a little bit more compassionate towards yourself, because you give yourself quite a hard time.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. And like I said, I could throw money at courses, but at the end of the day, I know it's myself that's stopping myself from just letting go and just being calm. Like I said, I know the facts of things, having listened to your podcast, which have been so helpful. I already feel like I'm another step closer than I was before. And I'll like say to my fiance, oh, did you know this? And I'll come out with facts now. And it's more, it's making it a bit easier almost, like, because I understand more now. Whereas before I understand it and I had no interest in understanding it, because whatever someone tried to tell me, I just went into a cold sweat, couldn't even talk about planes. I just didn't want to know.
Yeah.
So I know I am further along.
You definitely are. You definitely are.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Like I said, so you are further along than you realise, but it's always a process for everybody. So one of the things I'm thinking is that when this podcast goes out, I'll put something in the Facebook, on Instagram and everything, is that we will now be following your journey. So you've got all of us, behind
Yeah,
you.
no pressure.
Yeah, well, no, just to encourage, just sort of say, because there's people who are behind you and there's people ahead of you. Because when you have a fear
Yeah.
of flying, you always feel like yours is the worst. But you may have been the worst, but you're not there now. You're further along the journey. So your words will encourage people who are just starting. And so you're in that kind of midpoint. You know what I mean? So we'll be thinking about you for June, and we'll be thinking now, between now
Yeah.
and then, what can we do to help you? One of your ideas,
Yeah.
I wondered if you
No, I
fancied
really
to.
appreciate it. And the Facebook group is really helpful as well.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you
I was
find it
saying,
helpful.
yeah, really helpful. It's people post in their different things, and the questions, when you do the questions and stuff, and you've done polls, it's interesting to see a lot of people's fears about flying. I can resonate with so many of them because I fear the same, but then you or one of the pilots or the cabin crew or someone in that group will respond with a very logical explanation. So, like, for example, the first beep that you hear in the plane isn't emergency crash landing. It's just signaling that they're ready to serve tea or something so minor, but in your brain, it's the end of the world.
Yes. Yeah. Well, So
I would
it.
strongly recommend that Facebook group.
Yeah, I mean, you've shared lots of things that you've been doing, and I always say when it comes to beating a fear of flying, you've got to find your way. And because people say to me, is hypnotherapy good? Is CBT good? Is NLP, TFT, EMDR, all these different things? And it's what works for you. Some things work better for others. And of course, some of those I've just mentioned have more research behind them than other things, but I couldn't care. It's about what helps people. And if it helped, if I always used to say, if wearing a satsuma on your head before every flight helped you to get towards beating it, then why not give it a go? I'm not suggesting that, but it's just about being open to, like you are, being really open to trying things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did have hypnotherapy, EMDR, and NLP. I tried all of that, and I mean, some of it. The problem is you can't try it out, can you? Until you're on a plane.
That's right.
And that's what I found difficult. So although when I left the sessions, I felt brave and I felt my fear was conquered. You can't really see if it works until you're on the plane. But all I know is when our honeymoon got rebooked, or when I get that notification email, the fear that fills my body, I feel like the NLP and all the other stuff goes out the window.
Yeah, well, it's what you do next.
But I think knowledge is power.
I mean, you're definitely you're doing a lot. I mean, you are a work in progress, for want of an expression. You're really helping yourself, because there is a part of your brain that's thinking you can't fly or you can't get over it. But there is another part of your brain which is pushing on and exploring and listening and learning. So it's, at some point that will win, because it's just a matter of time. It's like you're chipping away at it. I always think, as long as you keep moving forward and you're determined, there's no reason why not.
I read somewhere as well about a lot of people that are scared of flying is the fear of control. And I know I'm a control freak, but the biggest thing is only you are in control of how you feel. So I feel like that's quite a good thing to tell myself, is that I can control how I feel. At the moment, I'm terrified of flying, but when I'm on the plane, I need to be in control. So my way of being in control is to learn more about and listening to the podcast, reading what I can read, exposing myself as much as possible before having to actually get on the flight.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. So I've got 2 suggestions for you.
Okay.
So one is, you've already said it, actually, which is to go to the airport and spend half a day there watching the aircraft take off, drinking coffee or tea.
Yeah.
Only because it was a tip that was recommended. I can't remember who recommended it. One of the other podcasts, they just said going there and just sitting there and watching it all happen helps to normalize it.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to do that. That's a task that I can follow up and say, have you had a chance to do it?
Okay.
And how did it go? Is that all right?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
And there was a second suggestion. What the hell was it? Oh, I know what it was. Yeah, it might help to familiarize yourself with the aircraft environment. And I was thinking of I think it was Geraldine who talked about the Queen Elizabeth centres or something like that. That these aircraft simulators that are around the country that you can visit, and you can just go and sit in the environment. Okay. And I don't think it costs anything.
That would be really good.
Yeah, but if you search, it's something like Queen Elizabeth Centres or something like that. It's on the Geraldine, the one where she was talking about accessibility at the airport. Geraldine Lundy.
Okay.
It's that podcast. She talks about it, and the details are in there as well. So that would be something you could do, and that would really, really help with the sort of making that bridge between where you are now and where you want to be.
Yeah, because I think it is such a unusual environment. Like I said, apart from on the day that you're flying and when you're about to get in the plane, you're not exposed to just sitting in the plane, are you? Like, no. It's either you're in the plane to go on holiday or you're not.
Yeah, exactly. And so that would give you a chance to, those 2 things would help you to just give you that a little bit more exposure, as you called it.
Yeah, I think that's what I need, like delicate exposure therapy.
Well, okay. So
if that's such a thing, if it isn't,
it is now. It is now delicate exposure therapy. It's a new form of therapy. It sounds a little bit suspicious, but we'll just leave it as it is for now. So, delicate exposure therapy is created today.
I just feel like sometimes. I just feel like it's sometimes when you do like fear courses and stuff like that, you're forced to face your fear head on, and it's really it's like really throws you in at the deep end. And sometimes that's too. I almost feel like the fear of flying course I did, or whilst it was good, it was very full on, and I was just thrown into this flight, and I was still terrified. So when we landed, okay, yes, I went up in the plane. But the whole time, I forgot my fiance's name. Someone came and sat next to me and said, "Oh, I can see you're engaged. What's their name?" And I couldn't tell them his name because I was full of fear. Yes. So when I landed, although everyone said, "Oh, great, you're cured now. You've done the course," it was a bit of a shock to the system.
Yes.
So I feel like this delicate exposure, going therapy. To the airport, and just making it, get some lavender.
Yeah, exactly.
Get some lavender oil, make it a nice.
Have a beer. I think yes. I know
Yeah.
when I ran the courses, I used to say to my colleagues, don't say to people you're cured, because some people are not. So some will be like your friend, and that's
No.
it. She's away. But a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
they're on their way. And so cured is I'm very
Yeah.
nervous at the word cured, because it's almost like turning
Mm.
a switch or something, and it isn't like that for some people. It's a process.
Mm. I think that's the thing. When I booked it, I was like, oh, this is brilliant. I'm going to go in a nervous flyer and I'm going to come out, book
Yeah,
in all these holidays and I'll be cured.
doing a
And
cartwheel. Yeah,
when you land and you realize, yeah, you realize, okay, I'm still scared
yeah,
and but I'm £300 down or was, but I'm still scared. It's a bit of a like harsh reality that
yeah,
for some people, yes, it's great, it works, but I guess for a lot of listeners and for someone like me, that doesn't work for me. I
yeah,
need constant, like I need to listen to the podcast, read the books, go to the airport, do little bits at a time, drip feed my brain. So
yes.
then I'm ready, I think. That's what I've come to terms with anyway. I think that will work better for me.
I think that's better. I think that's better for everyone. I think even people that have come through and just gone on the course once and go, ta-da, that's it. I still think it's possible, and I actually know this, it's possible for people then to have, if they're not careful, to then redevelop the fear. So I think what you're doing is the most
Yeah.
sustainable way to beat it, little
Yeah.
and
I
often.
hope so.
Yeah, well, it is. You listen to, I mean, that's what Hannah was talking about on a recent podcast, is that, even though she's feeling much, much better about flying, that you can't take it for granted,
Mm.
and you can't ever watch those programs, National Geographic, the ones, air crash investigation. You can't
Yeah, yeah,
Google stuff.
I
You
listen
can't
to
be checking the weather all the time,
the
because all of this does is feed the fear. And so we have to. It takes a bit of
yeah.
effort to maintain a new way of thinking about it, and
Mm.
so what you're doing is brilliant.
I think as well, recently obviously we've had the storm and in WhatsApp groups, my friends were sending links about the planes landing, and everyone was saying, Becky, just don't watch this, don't watch it.
Don't watch this. Here's the
And
link.
normally, yeah, don't watch it. Here's the link. But normally, it would send the fear of God in me, but I actually watched it, but said to myself after listening to the podcast, that was such a skilled landing. The pilot was safe, the air hostesses were safe, everyone landed safely. Out
Yeah,
of all of them flights that all came in the storm, where they
yeah.
were coming in all over the place, they still all landed safely. And
Mm.
I think for me, that is such a huge like turn of mindset, because before I would have had to delete the link and I would actually feel sick at even seeing a picture of it.
Yeah, there you go. So you are making progress. You can't always see it until you stop and pause for a moment, but you've made significant
Yeah.
progress.
I didn't actually realize until speaking to you now, thinking about it, like that is a huge
Mm,
step for me, because I
massive.
couldn't even, if a plane flew over the house, I could close the curtains, I wouldn't be able to look at it. I would be fearful, completely full of fear.
Sorry, Becky. I just love this idea of
So
an
yeah, I
aircraft
did.
approaches and you go, quick, shut the curtains. Don't let the aircraft see me.
It was awful. It was so
Mm,
bad. Like I would genuinely cry. I would
yeah,
cry if I was in the car and I saw a plane in the sky.
yeah. So you are
But I
making
don't know why.
progress. You are making progress. Well,
And I don't know when.
it's a trigger. So the fact when the fear becomes really strong, you could
Mm,
see somebody in a uniform, and it would be enough to trigger you, because it reminds you. The brain's very quick
mm,
at avoiding danger, and so what it's done is decided that that thing is dangerous. So every reminder, a holiday program, an aircraft flying over, a pilot who lives next door getting in his or her car, they could all trigger you, because the fear has become
mm,
strong. Once the fear gets you start to shake it a bit, like what you've been doing, the triggers they then become different, and so it's more significant things that actually make you nervous rather than everything. So that's how I know you're making progress, and that's you doing that. So just keep doing it, because we want to know. We want you back. We want Becky back telling us about delicate exposure therapy in June and how it went.
From my sun lounger in Antigua.
Yeah, well, we could do it live if you like, and just say, yeah, we might hate you, of course, but
I'm really determined.
We can tell.
But I'm also terrified.
Yeah, and that's okay. Those two things living together are okay. You're doing lots of really great stuff, and the fact that you're determined means you're well on the way. And we are, in the group and at Lovefly, we're totally rooting for you. And we want to hear about the delicate exposure therapy. And we want to know that you're going to go to the airport and you're going to go and sit in this Queen Elizabeth aircraft rig. I should drop you a message in a few weeks' time and see if you had any luck. And then we want you back. We want you back in June with a suntan, telling us about how it went.
Yeah, okay. That gives me a goal. That gives me something to work towards.
Yeah. Well, we're all supporting you. We're with you. That's why we do what we do. So we want to hear people have those successes. It's very rewarding.
Yeah, it's definitely been good listening to the podcast of people that have been in my position but have now are now traveling without fear and are more confident to book a holiday and not double think everything.
Yes.
I won't fly with certain airlines, I won't fly at certain times, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
To just not have that would be a dream.
Well, the dream plus the determination and the delicate exposure therapy, there's no reason why you won't get there. This is going to become a thing now,
I'll keep you updated.
It's called DET, delicate exposure therapy. It's a new, it's a new form of therapy created today.
Yeah, maybe I should copyright it.
That's it. Right, Becky.
I appreciate your.
Thank you for your time. I'm so grateful for your coming on and talking to us.
That's okay.
And it's been some nice little techniques and some ideas there as well. So, and I'll follow up with you in a few weeks' time to see whether you had any luck tracking down the aircraft mock-ups and whether you've been to the airport. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's been lovely to talk to you, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Delicate exposure therapy. Don't give up.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, Becky. Thank you.